before you begin your day, pause. Do not rush into the world just yet. Do not check your phone. Do not replay yesterday. Do not think about what could go wrong. Right now, in this quiet moment, you are standing at the creative center of your reality. This is the most important moment of your entire day, because what you accept as true in the next few minutes will echo through every hour that follows. You are not here by accident. You were guided to hear this message because today is meant to unfold differently. Today is meant to shift in your favor. Today is meant to prove to you how powerful you truly are. But it begins within. The world you see is not the cause. It is the effect. The cause is your state of being, your assumption, your inner conversation, the silent beliefs you carry into the morning. So, before you step into the outer world, choose your position. Choose to believe that everything is aligning for you. Choose to feel that unseen forces are organizing events in your favor. Choose to know that what you desire is already secured. You are not trying to make something happen today. You are allowing what is already arranged to unfold. Take a deep breath and step into this day as the one for whom everything works out. The moment you awaken each morning, you are not merely opening your eyes to a new day. You are stepping into a creative chamber where the entire script of the next 24 hours is waiting for your instruction. Before a single word is spoken, before a single action is taken, before the outer world makes its demands, something far more powerful is already at work, your state of consciousness. This first inner movement, this first emotional tone, becomes the silent architect of everything that follows. Most people rise from sleep unconsciously. They reach for their phone. They remember yesterday's worries. They anticipate today's problems. Without realizing it, they have already chosen the state from which the day will unfold. They assume stress, so the day reflects pressure. They assume delay, so they experience obstacles. They assume difficulty, so the hours seem heavy. They believe they are reacting to life, but in truth, life is responding to the state they accepted in those first waking moments. The morning is sacred because it is unguarded. In that delicate space between sleep and full awareness, the mind is most impressionable. What you feel there sinks deep into your being and hardens into expectation. And expectation is creative. It quietly organizes circumstances, conversations, and outcomes to match itself. The world does not begin when you step outside your door. It begins when you accept a feeling as true. If you wake and immediately feel gratitude, even before you have evidence for it, the day begins to search for reasons to justify that gratitude. If you wake with calm confidence, events seem to move with ease. If you rise with the quiet assumption that everything is working in your favor, you will notice doors opening where you once expected resistance. It is not magic. It is alignment. The outer world mirrors the inner atmosphere. Consider how different your day feels when you wake up excited versus when you wake up irritated. The same schedule, the same people, the same tasks, yet the experience shifts entirely. Why? Because the state shifted. The cause was internal, and the effect appeared external. This is the law operating with precision. It does not discriminate between positive or negative states. It simply reflects. That is why the first 5 minutes after waking are more powerful than the next 5 hours. In those first moments, you are deciding who you are for the day. Are you the one who struggles or the one who succeeds? Are you the one who reacts or the one who directs? Are you the one who expects setbacks or the one who assumes smooth progress? You do not change your life by changing circumstances first. You change your life by changing the state from which you meet those circumstances. So instead of waking and asking, what might go wrong today? Ask, what wonderful things are already arranged for me? Instead of replaying yesterday's disappointments, feel tonight's satisfaction as if the day has already unfolded beautifully. Step into the version of yourself who ends this day fulfilled, accomplished, and at peace, and feel that reality now in advance, This is not pretending, it is selecting. When you deliberately choose a morning state of assurance, you are placing an order with the deeper intelligence that shapes your experiences. You are declaring, without words, "This is the version of reality I accept," and reality responds accordingly. You may still encounter challenges, but they will feel different. They will appear manageable, even purposeful. Why? Because you began from stability rather than fear. You began from confidence rather than doubt. The state colors the perception, and perception shapes the experience. Many believe that productivity determines a successful day, but productivity flows naturally from alignment. When your state is clear and empowered, actions become efficient. Conversations become smoother. Ideas come more easily. Opportunities become visible. The difference is not in the workload. It is in the inner posture. Imagine waking tomorrow and refusing to entertain a single negative expectation. Imagine deciding, before your feet touch the ground, that today supports you. Feel the calm certainty of that decision. Carry it into your shower, your breakfast, your commute. Notice how your posture shifts. Notice how your tone softens. Notice how your responses become measured instead of reactive. This is how a day is created, not by force, but by assumption. Your first morning state is like tuning an instrument. If the instrument is tuned to harmony, the music flows beautifully. If it is tuned to discord, every note sounds strained. You are the instrument. The world is the music. Do not underestimate the simplicity of this practice. It requires no effort beyond awareness. It requires no external change. It only asks that you become intentional with the very first feeling you accept each day. Wake gently. Breathe deeply. Choose deliberately. Because before the world speaks to you, you speak to it silently through your state. And whatever you declare in that quiet moment becomes the day you live. Most people wait for evidence before they allow themselves to believe. They say, "When I see it, I will trust it. When it happens, I will feel secure. When it arrives, I will be confident." But this way of living keeps fulfillment always one step ahead, always just out of reach. The deeper law of life works in the opposite direction. You do not believe because you see. You see because you believe. Assumption precedes proof. The outer world is not a courtroom where evidence is presented before conviction. It is a mirror. And a mirror does not decide what to reflect. It simply returns what stands before it. If you stand before life with doubt, you will find circumstances that justify doubt. If you stand before it with quiet certainty, you will witness confirmations of that certainty. The world does not create your belief, it echoes it. This is why waiting for proof is a subtle form of delay. When you demand visible confirmation before you assume success, you are unknowingly postponing it. You are telling reality, "I do not yet accept this as true." And what you do not accept cannot solidify into experience. The law responds not to your wishes, but to your assumptions. Assumption is not blind optimism. It is an inner decision. It is choosing to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled before the senses agree. It is saying, "This is already arranged," even when appearances suggest otherwise. And though this may feel unnatural at first, it is the very act that initiates change. Consider how easily fear works. A person imagines something going wrong and begins to feel anxious. There is no proof that disaster will occur, yet the body reacts, the mind prepares, and the emotions follow the imagined outcome. The assumption alone creates a physical response. If assumption can produce fear without evidence, it can just as powerfully produce confidence without evidence. The mechanism is the same, only the direction differs. When you assume success, something shifts inside you immediately. Your posture straightens. Your voice steadies. Your decisions become clearer. You move differently. And because you move differently, others respond differently. Doors open not because you forced them, but because you carried yourself as one who expected them to open. The proof appears because the assumption came first. The mistake many make is reacting to temporary appearances as though they are final facts. A delay becomes failure. A closed door becomes rejection. A mistake becomes proof that I cannot. But these are interpretations rooted in prior assumptions. If instead you hold the assumption that everything works in your favor, even a delay becomes preparation. A closed door becomes redirection. A mistake becomes refinement. The event remains the same, the meaning transforms. Assumption is creative because it stabilizes your inner world. And once the inner world stabilizes, the outer world must reorganize. It may not happen instantly, but it is inevitable. Just as a seed planted beneath the soil is unseen before it sprouts, your assumption works beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Impatience uproots the seed. Persistence nourishes it. To assume does not mean to pretend. It means to accept inwardly what you desire as though it were already fact. You feel the relief now. You embody the confidence now. You speak inwardly from the accomplished result now. And as you remain faithful to that state, reality aligns around it. Think of the times in your life when you were certain something would go well. Perhaps you walked into an opportunity expecting success. You did not yet have the outcome in hand, but you felt it internally. That internal conviction shaped your behavior, your energy, and ultimately your result. The proof followed your expectation. Now imagine applying this deliberately. Imagine waking each morning and assuming that today favors you. Assume that conversations will unfold smoothly. Assume that solutions will appear at the right moment. Assume that you are supported in ways you cannot yet see. Feel the steadiness of that belief before any external sign confirms it. At first, the mind may protest. It may demand evidence. It may point to past disappointments. But those past disappointments were themselves reflections of earlier assumptions. You are not bound to them. You are free to choose differently now. Assumption is an act of creative authority. It is stepping into the role of cause rather than effect. It is deciding the inner narrative before the outer story unfolds. And when you persist in that narrative, proof arrives, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, but always consistently with the state you maintained. So stop asking the world to prove itself to you first. Instead, prove to yourself that you can hold a chosen state regardless of appearances. Accept inwardly what you wish to experience. Stand in that acceptance calmly and steadily, because the law is unwavering. What you assume to be true and persist in assuming will eventually stand before you as fact. Assumption precedes proof, always. There is a profound difference between hoping for something and living from it. Hoping places your desire in the future. Leaving from the end places you in the future. Now, most people spend their days wanting, wishing, and waiting. They think about what they desire as something separate from themselves, something that may arrive one day, if circumstances allow it. But true creative power begins the moment you stop longing for the outcome and start embodying it. To live from the end means to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled before it materializes. It means you no longer ask, how will this happen? But instead settle into the quiet certainty that it has already happened in consciousness. You shift from becoming to being. Imagine you desire success in your work. The usual approach is effort fueled by anxiety. You push harder, worry more, and measure every step against the fear of failure. But living from the end feels entirely different. It feels like the calm satisfaction of someone who already knows they are successful. Decisions are made from confidence rather than desperation. Actions flow from clarity rather than pressure. You are not chasing validation, you are expressing fulfillment. The outer world responds not to your words, but to your state. When you live from the end, you change the state from which you operate. You think differently. You speak differently. You interpret events differently. And because your interpretation shifts, your experience shifts. Living from the end is not fantasy. It is not denial of present circumstances. It is a deliberate relocation of identity. You are choosing to identify with the version of yourself who has already received what you desire. You are rehearsing inwardly the emotional tone of completion. If you desire harmony in a relationship, do not wait for the other person to change before you feel at peace. Feel the peace now. Feel the warmth now. Feel the appreciation now. When you consistently occupy that inner atmosphere, the dynamic begins to transform. Conversations soften. Tension eases. And even if changes seem gradual, they are rooted in your inner shift. Most frustration arises because people remain internally attached to the state of not yet. They constantly check for signs. They measure progress. They question timing. But living from the end removes the anxiety of waiting. There is nothing to wait for because in consciousness, it is done. Consider how different your body feels when you imagine a problem versus when you imagine its solution already resolved. The body relaxes. The breath deepens. The mind quiets. That physical response reveals something important. Your nervous system does not distinguish sharply between vividly imagined completion and physical completion. When you feel it as real inwardly, your entire being aligns with that reality. The secret is persistence. It is easy to feel fulfilled for a moment. The challenge is remaining there when appearances contradict you. But appearances are simply reflections of previous states. They are echoes, not verdicts. If you continue living from the end, the echo must eventually change. Living from the end also transforms how you handle obstacles. Instead of seeing them as proof that your desire is distant, you recognize them as part of the unseen bridge connecting your present to your fulfillment. You no longer react with fear. You respond with calm assurance. After all, if the end is secure, then every step, even unexpected ones, must be leading toward it. This practice requires imagination guided by feeling. At night, before sleep, imagine a short scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. Feel the satisfaction, the relief, the gratitude. In the morning, carry that same emotional tone into your day. Walk, speak, and decide as the one who has already succeeded. Over time, this becomes natural. The line between inner conviction and outer experience begins to blur. What once felt like deliberate imagination begins to feel like simple truth. Living from the end dissolves struggle because it removes inner conflict. You are no longer divided between wanting and doubting. You are unified in acceptance. And acceptance is powerful. It stabilizes your state. It clarifies your perception. It attracts corresponding experiences. The world rearranges itself around identity. If you see yourself as incomplete, life mirrors lack. If you see yourself as fulfilled, life mirrors abundance. Identity precedes experience. So stop standing at the starting line of your desire. Step mentally across the finish line. Feel the accomplishment. Feel the joy. Feel the quiet pride. Let that feeling guide your day. Because when you live from the end, you are no longer chasing reality. You are directing it. What you call your current reality is not a fixed structure. It is not an unchangeable fact. It is a shadow, an echo of states you once occupied and accepted as true. Every circumstance you experience today was first a subtle movement within you. A belief held, a fear entertained, a hope cherished, a story repeated. And though the outer form may seem solid and convincing, it is only the delayed reflection of something that has already occurred in consciousness. Think of standing before a mirror. The reflection you see does not initiate movement. It follows it. If you smile, the mirror smiles. If you frown, the mirror frowns. Yet imagine forgetting this and attempting to change the reflection directly. You would grow frustrated, pushing at the glass, demanding its shift, not realizing that the source of change is you. Life works the same way. Circumstances do not create your state. They reflect it. Most people live in reaction to shadows. They argue with what they see. They resist appearances. They label conditions as permanent or unfair. But the more they fight the reflection, the more they remain bound to the state that produced it. Reaction is unconscious loyalty to the past. And as long as you react emotionally to a circumstance, you continue feeding the state from which it emerged. To understand that circumstances are shadows of past states is to reclaim authority. It means that nothing appearing today has ultimate power over you. It may demand attention, but it does not define you. It is simply evidence of who you have been, not a prison determining who you must remain. If you have been dwelling in worry, you may notice repeated delays or complications. If you have been dwelling in self-doubt, you may encounter situations that seem to confirm it. But these are not punishments. They are mirrors. They are opportunities to recognize the state you have been occupying unconsciously. And here lies the freedom. If a circumstance was produced by a past state, it can be dissolved by a new one. The outer world moves slower than the inner world. That delay often confuses people. They change their thinking for a day or two and expect immediate transformation. When the old circumstance persists, they assume the new state has failed. But the shadow lingers briefly, even after the body has moved. What you see now may still be the echo of yesterday's assumption. Patience is not passive. It is steady faith in the unseen shift. When you alter your inner position, when you choose confidence instead of fear, abundance instead of lack, harmony instead of resentment, you are creating a new cause. The visible world must eventually adjust. It cannot resist indefinitely because it has no independent creative power. It reflects. This understanding changes how you respond to difficulty. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What state did this arise from?" Not in self-blame, but in awareness. And once aware, you gently withdraw attention from the old state and invest it in a new one. If you face financial strain, do not obsess over the numbers. Instead, cultivate the inner feeling of stability and provision. If you experience tension in relationships, do not replay arguments. Cultivate the feeling of mutual respect and understanding. If you encounter repeated obstacles, assume smooth progress inwardly and persist in that assumption. At first, the outer world may appear unchanged, but beneath the surface, movement has begun. The old shadow fades as the new state strengthens. One of the greatest mistakes is giving permanence to temporary reflections. A single setback becomes my life. A moment of rejection becomes who I am. But circumstances are fluid because states are fluid. You are not bound to yesterday's thinking. You are not obligated to repeat yesterday's emotional patterns. The moment you consciously choose a different state, you interrupt the cycle. You do not need to fight the shadow. You do not need to explain it. You do not need to justify it. Simply recognize it as past creation and turn inward. Shift the cause and the effect must follow. This requires discipline of attention. Where attention goes, state strengthens. If you continuously revisit the old story, you keep it alive. If you instead dwell on the feeling of the desired reality, you nourish the new state. Over time, the evidence becomes undeniable. Circumstances begin aligning with your new assumptions. Opportunities replace obstacles. Support replaces resistance. What once seemed fixed begins to soften and reorganize. You then realize something transformative. You were never trapped by conditions. You were only witnessing shadows, and shadows vanish when the light shifts. Change the state. Persist in the new assumption. Withdraw belief from what no longer serves you, because circumstances are not masters. They are mirrors of who you have been, and they will faithfully reflect who you decide to become. There is a higher way of moving through life, a way that replaces anxiety with assurance and struggle with quiet confidence. It begins with a bold assumption everything is always working in your favor. Not sometimes, not only when conditions look pleasant, but always. This single decision transforms how you interpret events, how you respond to challenges, and how reality ultimately unfolds before you. Most people divide life into categories of good and bad. When something desirable happens, they feel supported. When something unexpected or uncomfortable arises, they feel attacked by circumstance. But this reaction-based living keeps them in emotional instability. They are lifted by favorable appearances and crushed by unfavorable ones. Yet what if both are part of a larger orchestration? What if even what seems like delay or disappointment is positioning you precisely where you need to be? When you assume that everything works in your favor, you step into a state of trust, and trust alters perception. An obstacle no longer feels like a barrier. It feels like redirection. A delay no longer feels like denial. It feels like preparation. A closed door no longer feels like rejection. It feels like protection. This shift does not mean you deny discomfort. It means you interpret it differently. Imagine looking back at your life and recognizing moments that once felt painful but later revealed hidden benefits. Opportunities you missed that saved you from larger problems. Relationships that ended but cleared space for better connections. Failures that taught lessons essential for later success. In hindsight, you often see the invisible order. The wisdom is already there. You simply did not see it at the time. To live powerfully is to adopt that hindsight perspective now. Instead of waiting years to understand why something happened, you choose in the present moment to believe it is serving you. This belief stabilizes your emotional world. And when you are emotionally stable, your decisions improve. You act from clarity rather than fear. You remain patient where others panic. You persist where others quit. Everything working in your favor does not mean every event feels pleasant. It means every event contributes to your expansion. Some experiences refine you, others strengthen you. Some remove what no longer aligns. Others introduce what does. But all are cooperating with the version of you that you are becoming. The outer world is constantly reorganizing itself according to your state. If your state is one of trust and expectation of good, you begin to notice subtle confirmations everywhere. Chance meetings lead to opportunities. Small ideas grow into breakthroughs. Minor adjustments create major improvements. What once felt random now appears coordinated. The key is consistency. It is easy to declare that life supports you when everything appears smooth. The true test is maintaining that conviction when appearances contradict it. In those moments, you must refuse to surrender your chosen state. Remind yourself, this too is working for me, not as empty words, but as a deliberate return to trust. Your inner reaction determines whether an event strengthens or weakens you. If you assume adversity is against you, you collapse inwardly. If you assume it is shaping you, you stand firm. The event remains the same. The effect differs because the assumption differs. Life responds to expectation. When you wake each day expecting alignment, you subtly prepare yourself to recognize it. When you expect support, you remain open to receiving it. When you expect progress, you interpret movement as forward rather than stuck. Expectation guides attention. Attention shapes experience. Even uncertainty becomes lighter under this assumption. You may not know how everything will unfold, but you no longer need to. You trust the unfolding itself. That trust creates calm, and calm attracts clarity. Consider the power of moving through your day with the unshakable belief that you are guided, supported, and favored. Conversations become less intimidating. Decisions feel less overwhelming. Setbacks lose their sting. You no longer see life as something to survive, but something collaborating with you. This is not passive optimism. It is active alignment. It is choosing the lens through which you interpret reality. And because reality mirrors interpretation, your lens becomes your lived experience. Everything is always working in your favor, even now, especially now. The very challenges you face may be aligning you with a greater outcome. The confusion you feel may be clearing outdated paths. The discomfort may be stretching you beyond limitation. Hold the assumption gently but firmly. Let it steady your breath. Let it guide your reactions. Let it anchor your mind when doubt attempts to return. Because when you persist in this belief, something remarkable happens. Life begins to prove you right. And you realize that you were never fighting against the current. You were being carried by it all along. Now carry this state with you. not just for a few minutes, not just while listening. Carry it into your movements, your speech, your reactions, your thoughts. Walk as though it is already done. When something challenges you, do not shrink. Smile inwardly. Remember what you decided this morning. Remember the state you claimed. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of events. You are not waiting for permission to succeed. You are the one who determines how the story unfolds. And because you have chosen the state where everything works out for you, it must. Let others react to appearances. You remain steady. Let others worry about outcomes. You remain certain. Let others doubt. You persist. Reality has no choice but to reorganize around your inner conviction. Tonight, when you lay your head down, you will look back and realize something remarkable. The day met you exactly where you expected it to. Because assumption always hardens into fact. So go forward now with calm confidence. Today supports you. Today favors you. Today unfolds beautifully for you. And it begins and ends within. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to sit with the feeling it created. That feeling is the real power. Thank you for allowing yourself to step into a higher state this morning. Thank you for choosing awareness. Thank you for choosing intention over reaction. Return to this message whenever you need to reset your state. Listen each morning until this way of thinking becomes natural. Until assuming the best is no longer effort, but identity. And as you move forward, remember the power is not in these words. The power is in you. Everything works out for you. Always